While on the road, all of us stop when the lights turn red. Suddenly, a few children appear near your vehicle and start begging. Some of us give them money or other things. How many of us really stop and think, why are these children on the streets begging while our children are at schools? Children, especially girls from underprivileged communities, are very vulnerable and their rights are being violated every other day. Take the case of 12-year-old Kay, whose family lives on the streets. She was forced to drop out of school in order to beg and support her family. Her parents consume alcohol and gutka. She wants to go to school and have a normal life, but that's a distant dream. She started sniffing volatile solvents at the age of 8, and she would then go out and indulge in begging in a state of daze. She dislikes begging.
फील्ड में रैन बसेराज में गए, रेलवे स्टेशंस पे गए और हमें काफ़ी कुछ देखने को मिला। पेरेंट्स भी सॉल्यूशंस का नशा करते थे। पेरेंट्स अपने बच्चों को चाहते थे कि बच्चे नशा ना करें, लेकिन बच्चे भीख मांग करके मुझे पैसा कमा के दें। बच्चा कहीं ना कहीं अगर पढ़ना भी चाहता था, लेकिन बच्चे को भिक्षावृत्ति में डाला जाता था ताकि बच्चा कमा के लाए, और वही एक कारण था कि बच्चा नशा करके फिर अपना भिक्षावृत्ति में कार्य में करता था। ठीक है। और उसी दौरान जो है बहुत सारी लड़कियों के साथ जैसे नशे में होती थी। 12 साल की लड़कियां, 13 साल की लड़कियां नशा करती थी। नशा करने के बाद उनको होश नहीं रहता था, उनके साथ अब्यूजिंग भी होती थी।
Another girl who's usually on the street alongside Kay, but a little older, has suddenly stopped coming. She has been inducted into sex work by her parents, again to supplement their earnings. She too consumes drugs or alcohol, as that is the only way she can do what she's forced to do. As per the World Drug Report 2018, street-involved children remain one of the most vulnerable, marginalized and stigmatized groups. They are exposed to abuse and violence, drug use and other behaviors that put them at risk of HIV and tuberculosis infection and other conditions including malnutrition and general poor health. They are often the most likely to be excluded from receiving any form of social or healthcare support. In another frequently cited study by the International Labour Organization, more than 1 million children were victims of sexual exploitation in 2016. Certain traditions and customs, like child marriage, make girls more vulnerable to exploitation and risks. Consider the example of M, who was married off against her wishes during adolescence.
मेरे मम्मी पापा मेरी शादी कर रहे थे। 8 साल की उम्र में कर देते हैं शादी, और जब लड़की बड़ी होती तब उसको ससुराल में भेजते हैं। लड़का भी छोटा ही रहता है।
She was raised by her auntie and uncle, who just followed the tradition of their community. She ran away from her husband's home, was caught begging around the railway station in another city, and was put in a children's home by the police. She bounced from home to home and even stayed on the streets for a while, where she met other girls who were into substance abuse. She used to experience hallucinations and would indulge in self-harm. Again, the family and the state machinery failed to protect her rights and she fell through the cracks.
12 साल की लड़की थी, बच्चे की शादी कर दी। शादी किस तरीके से करी? लड़के वालों से कुछ पैसा ले लिया। लड़की को शादी किस तरीके से करवाई? उसको नशा करवा के शादी करवाई। मैंने ये चीज़ भी देखी है, बच्चा अगर नशे में है, एक लड़के के साथ शादी की, उससे पैसे ले लिए, दूसरे लड़के के साथ शादी की, उससे पैसे ले लिए, तो कहीं ना कहीं 3-4 शादी कर देते हैं।
According to the NCRB report on missing women and children in India, juveniles are one of the most vulnerable groups of trafficking. Since children are easy to manipulate by human traffickers, both for labor as well as for sexual exploitation. There is an increase in numbers of missing children from 2016 to 2018. According to an analysis of available data in 2012 by UNICEF on child marriage in India, younger the bride, lower the capacity to be empowered and stand for her rights, and higher incidence of domestic violence and particularly sexual violence for young brides. Sometimes, lack of parenting skills or not being available for the children creates an emotional void for them. A girl named S grew up in a well-to-do family and had access to money and other luxuries. She is tech-savvy and has many friends on the Facebook. She started smoking while she was still in school. Her Facebook friends introduced her to club life and parties where she began drinking alcohol and consuming heroin.
ऐप भी फ्रेंड बनी, ऐप भी फ्रेंड के साथ क्लब वगैरह जाती थी, अल्कोहल वगैरह पीने लग गई, नशे में ज़्यादा, फिर गांजा वांजा पीने लग गई, स्मैक ज़्यादा पिया.
She dropped out of school, worked as a part-time DJ and took money from home to buy drugs. Soon, her supplier asked her to sell drugs, which she did happily as it reduced her guilt of stealing from home. Her lying, dropping out of schools and stealing went unnoticed by parents. As per the World Drug Report of 2018, girls are more susceptible to social pressures and tend to have a greater level of sensitivity to peer approval, depression, and body image. This can increase the risk of substance abuse. Early maturing girls are more likely to spend time with older males who are inclined towards risk-taking activities and may introduce them to the use of substances. Pubertal onset among girls is also associated with increased conflict among parents and adolescents with regard to issues such as selection of friends or dating, and to shifting behavioral expectations that can lead to more conduct problems, exposure to peer deviance, and risky sexual behaviors. The report also states that media portrayals of substance use as glamorous, fun, and relaxing all contribute to the initiation and continued use of psychoactive substances among young people. Certain media messages can make substance use appear to be normative behavior. At times, parental neglect makes it easier for child predators to take advantage of children, especially very young girls. Take the case of A, who was just 9 years old when she was lured by a neighbor on a regular basis with gifts and tasty food.
मैं 9 साल की उम्र से नशा करती थी और एक मेरे पड़ोसी में एक आदमी था तो उन्होंने बोला कि ट्राई कर ले.
Slowly, she was introduced to cigarettes and beer as a reward for committing petty crimes like snatching and stealing on behalf of the adult neighbor.
हमारे घर में थोड़ी सी पैसों की प्रॉब्लम रहती थी जिसके कारण मुझे जॉब पे निकलना पड़ा. वो ऑटो चलाते हैं. मुझे ऐसा लगा जैसे कि हमारा बच्चा ठीक नहीं चल रहा है. फिर हमने उस पर नज़र रखना स्टार्ट करा. फिर देखा तो वो बीड़ी चुपके से पीती थी जाके वॉशरूम में. तो फिर मैंने पूछा तुझे सिखाई किसने? कह रही मम्मी मेरे को एक ताऊ है वो पीते थे, उन्होंने कहा इसे पी के देख बहुत अच्छा लगेगा. जैसे कि एक मट्टी होती है ना, अपने जिस सांचे में ढालो उसी सांचे में वो ढालता चला गया क्योंकि उसे चाहिए थी लड़कियां कम उम्र वाली. सारी 16-17 साल की, 18 साल की, 9 साल की, 10 साल की लड़कियों को वो ये सब ऐप करा के फिर उनको अपने अंडर कर लेता है. क्यों? क्योंकि वो मजबूर हो जाती है नशे के लिए. उनसे गलत करवाना, फिर उनसे चोरियां करवाना. अगर तुझे ये नशा चाहिए तो जो मैं कहूँगा वो करेगी.
Soon she became dependent on heroin and her parents married her off. The said neighbor kidnapped her, sexually abused her, and she was back to working for him. As per the World Drug Report of 2018, the regulatory skills that children need to resist substance use and other problem behaviors are instilled early in life, suggesting that a favorable home environment, that is, family cohesion, family communication, and family management, confer protection against negative outcomes, including substance use. A child's attachment to school appears to be a component of resilience, that is, a protective factor. This report also mentions that minors and juveniles are subject to lenient laws, prosecution and penalties for criminal offences, including drug offences, which makes it convenient for organised crime groups to exploit young people to undertake various tasks within the drug supply chain. Some research findings indicate that presence of substance abuse in a child may facilitate impaired decision making, which may make a child more likely to indulge in sexual behaviors. Similarly, at least some of the substance users are being provided with substances in exchange for sex. Now that we know what and why of the situation, let's go to the obvious next step. What holds these girls back from seeking treatment, given the desire of most of them to give up their dependency on drugs and lead a normal life? The study conducted in 2013 indicates that only a small proportion of sample had ever sought any formal treatment for their substance use. There are only a limited number of centers which provide drug treatment services in India. Even in areas where such services are available, treatment may not be sought for child substance users due to various reasons. For example, lack of motivation, perceived stigma, or lack of understanding about the nature of substance use disorders. Children reported experiencing difficulty in quitting. They reported craving, peer pressure, easy availability, withdrawal, stress, and difficulty surviving on the streets without the substances as reasons. So, how do we address the problem and find ways that ensure protection of rights of vulnerable children with special focus on girls? The study titled Assessment of Pattern and Profile of Substance Use Among Children in India, conducted in 2013, recommends that there is a pressing need of initiating programs for prevention and treatment. Prevention programs must target multiple settings and multiple risk factors, particularly vulnerable children. Vulnerability of girls should be addressed with urgency. While government schemes like Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Yojana, Mahila Shakti Kendra, Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, etc. are all being regularly launched by the government, they have failed to hinder the violence perpetrated against girls in India. Prevention in schools should include universal prevention programs such as education and life skills programs. School-going children should have access to professional counseling in the school setting. There is need for availability of specialized treatment services for children who are using substances. Rehabilitation efforts focusing on skill building and vocational training should be provided. Supply chain efforts should limit availability of tobacco and alcohol near residential areas and schools. Keeping these recommendations in mind, some programs and pilots have been initiated in some states in India that focus on establishing specific treatment centers for children based on gender-specific needs and implementing school-based and community-based prevention programs. These are steps in the right direction, but efforts need to be scaled up to see greater impact of these initiatives.